Hello and welcome to today's topic on confidence, particularly as a dancer and particularly when going social dancing. In today's video, we're going to explore what confidence actually is, what it's made up of, and different practices that you can do to help improve your confidence over 3 different aspects. I'll be giving 7 practical tips, and I really hope that just by taking away one of those tips, we're going to improve our confidence on the dance floor. Before we go on to how to improve confidence, which seems like this very abstract notion, we're going to look at the actual definition of confidence so that we can tackle it a little bit easier. According to psychologist Albert Bandura, confidence is made out of 3 things. Number 1, self-efficacy, 2, self-confidence, and 3, self-esteem. But we quite often interchange these words, but they actually mean different things. So let's go into their definitions. Self-efficacy is your belief in yourself to be able to achieve a very, very specific task. So, for example, doing a triple turn with no hesitations. When you have done that enough times, you know that you can do it. So you have the self-efficacy in that one skill. Self-confidence is that, but on a more broader level. So it's your ability to, be a good dancer. Are you a good dancer? Not can you do a triple turn, but in general, are you good at a whole task? And it's your opinion of yourself in a broader sense. Self-confidence, like self-efficacy, is based on past experiences. So if you know in the past you have been a good dancer, now you have the self-confidence to know that you are a good dancer. So self-confidence is very similar to self-efficacy, but instead of focusing on very specific tasks, we're focusing on you as a whole. And then the third thing that makes up confidence is your self-esteem. The idea being, this is your sense of self-worth, okay? You know when people say things like, oh, I'm not good enough at this, or I can't do this because something I'm doing, right? That is your self-esteem talking. So if we want to be more confident on the dance floor, we need to figure out ways to tackle each of these things in a way that's going to allow us to be just generally more confident when we go out on the dance floor, when we go ask people to dance, or when we're dancing with others. But also this translates into everyday life also. So how you conduct yourself when you're at work, with your friends, with your family, just going about your day-to-day. So all of these things you can also apply in other areas of your life. Now, before I go on to the tips, I will say that confidence is a skill. It's not a case of you're born with it or you're not born with it. I was not born with very much confidence, and actually throughout primary school, I was a very, very shy person. Over time, I have developed that skill, but I still have lots of work to do. There's still areas where I can build my confidence, okay? You put me in front of a camera, fine, absolutely fine. You put me teaching a dance class in front of hundreds of people, also absolutely fine. You ask me to go up to a stranger and ask them a question, I'm very, very shy. So confidence, it's a constantly developing skill. So don't think, okay, now I'm confident and that's it. I don't need to do anything else. You need to consistently work on it and get better and better and better. Now, whilst that seems like a lot of effort, it should fill you with a little bit of confidence to know that it's something that you can develop. The aim is for slow growth over a long period of time because confidence is a skill that can grow. Right, enough definitions. Let's talk on some practical tips. Number 1, and before you run away, because I'm sure your dance teacher has said this to you, is you must practice outside of class. I'm not going to be the first person to say this, and I'm not going to be the last. But before you click off, let's talk about the science of why. So going back to the definition of confidence, 2 out of 3 of them rely on your past experiences. If you can keep doing the same move over and over and over again until you feel super confident, until you feel super happy with the way that you are executing it, and you're getting good feedback also, over time, that move, that very specific move that you have mastered, is going to give you the self-efficacy that you need to help build your confidence. If you can do that over time with, lots of different moves, and you get very, very, very good at those specific moves, your self-confidence over time will improve because you've worked the self-efficacy for each individual move, and now as a whole, you're kind of becoming that more well-rounded dancer. Now, a 1-hour class a week, a 2-hour class a week, even if you did 2-3 nights a week, is not going to be enough to develop your skills at the pace that you want it to develop at. You're watching this video for a reason. So something is telling me that maybe you're not practicing as much as you would like to outside of class. This does include social dancing and experimenting, but it also includes solo practice and doing workshops and classes as well. This leads me nicely to number 2, which is to practice correctly. There is no point going to one class, learning a move, practicing it over and over and over and over again, and then you go to the social dance floor and it just doesn't work because you didn't practice the right thing. But now you've kind of ingrained all these bad habits into your body. Your muscle memory is, messed up. Now you're trying to undo the mistake that you've done. So what I would recommend is that you don't stop going to classes when you're on your learning how to dance journey. And in my opinion, the smaller the class, the better, because then the teacher can give you more individual feedback. So what we want to do is make sure that we're practicing correctly. We're going to workshops, we're going to, let's say, boot camps as well, and we're going to classes so that we can actually, get the correct information to practice. It's really important to ask questions in class. Even if you don't know what the right question to ask is, when you're doing the move in the class, you can ask the teacher, am I doing this correctly? You don't have to ask a specific question. You can say, am I doing this correctly? Because sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know the mistakes that you're mistaking. Mistakes you're mistaking. It works. If you're not sure what the question is, you can say, what am I doing incorrectly? Well, how can I make this better? And then it gives your teacher a chance to look at you, to improve, and to make you better, So we are practicing correctly, but we're also asking the right questions and putting ourselves in the right spaces to be able to get the information to be able to practice correctly. We're improving then our self-efficacy for specific moves and our self-confidence in the sense that we know that we're doing the right thing. Number 3 is to use mirrors. Okay, hear me out on this one. All right, so practice doesn't make perfect, as we've said. You could practice and it's the wrong thing. Now, in a class situation, obviously the teacher's attention is divided by multiple people, and sometimes you just want to practice on your own. So let's say you're practicing on your own, or with, let's say, one other person, I would suggest using mirrors, because there's so many times in class where I'd be like, I need you to put your arm up like this. And they'll have their arm out here, and I'm like, no, it needs to be straighter, and then they're here, or they're like this, and they think their arm is straight, and it's not straight. Sometimes this happens because there's just a general lack of body awareness, because we haven't practiced in the way that we should be practicing. Where, let's say, in a private class, the teacher can give you constant feedback to improve and fine-tune these little details. When you have a mirror, you're getting that feedback constantly. So use the mirror to give yourself the feedback to improve self-efficacy, but also know that you're doing things correctly in the general dance sense. Self-confidence. Word of caution when it comes to using mirrors is sometimes we can be very self-critical, whether that's videos or mirrors. And I would say that when we start getting very self-critical to the point where it's making us feel down or affecting our mental health or putting us off, then maybe we need to step back a little bit. I'll talk a little bit about self-love later, but we want to step back a little bit because we don't want to be critical to the point where, it's affecting us negatively. This is supposed to be fun, okay? But we want to have just enough positive criticism that we're like, cool, I'm in a good place. I'm happy with where I am. My progress has been amazing. And this is what I need to improve on to get better next time. Number 4 is default moves. Sometimes when you're dancing, so let's say I'm leading, okay? Sometimes when I'm leading, I will go blank. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. Or as a follower, maybe I'm following things, but my arm is just like this, or I'm not doing the moves with the best technique. And what you want to make sure you have is some default moves. And those defaults have been practiced so hard that they are so ingrained into your body. Why is this good? It's because then you have something to fall back on days when you're tired, when you've gone blank, when you're not really feeling it. You still have a solid foundation to move back on. So again, this comes with practice as well, and also deciding what you want your default moves to be. It's very easy to go to many classes and learn so many different moves, and then when you come on the dance floor, you're like, and it's like brain freeze. It's very common. If you say, actually, okay, I'm gonna learn loads of cool moves and flashy moves, and those are gonna come out when I'm feeling it, but when I'm not feeling it, or when it's just that kind of day, this is my 4 moves that I'm really good at and I can do with my eyes closed. When it comes to styling, for example, have your default hands. Practice, let's say, a reindeer hand, or this, I call them puppet hands, but it's a very bad name for them. Puppet hands, or whatever it is, or like you're eating bags of crisps, this kind of hand. Have a default hand. Every time you put your hand out, it's going to always look like this. You don't have to think about it anymore because, that's my arm at all times. Sometimes it is a little bit floppy, it happens. But if you can practice that more and more, and you have your default moves in the right place, then you know that you're going to be in a good position. You have the confidence that even if you're having a bit of a rough day, a down day, you've got your sort of minimum that you're leaning back to is actually still quite a high standard. Number 5, and I said we'll come back to it, is self-love. Especially when you're putting yourself out there in the way that dance requires you to. Okay, when you go onto the dance floor, you are exposing yourself in a kind of very intimate way. I'm making this sound weirder than it is, but you are, showcasing what you've learned. You're showcasing your skills. You are connecting with another human being. So, not only do you owe yourself to, enjoy the moment, but you owe it to the person you're dancing to. And that's what I want you to focus on, is enjoying the moment and not being super, super critical about what you're doing and how you're doing it. Now, self-love is extremely important. It's actually a really big topic, and it's not one that I'm qualified to speak about. So I would recommend is make it one of your goals, okay? Just in general, to improve your self-love and to improve the thought processes in your head and how you think about yourself and how you show up in the world. It's really important to develop this, and it's something that I'm working on consistently. There are, of course, lots of books that are available. One of my personal favorites is You're a Badass by Jen Sincero. Absolutely amazing book, that one. I really, it helped me at a really dark time. So I would 100% recommend that one. There are other books available on the topic. And of course, there's more help that you can get in terms of CBT counseling. So I would always recommend that if it's something that you're struggling with, or even if it's just a little bit of a struggle, seek the help to improve it. Because when you're dancing and you're, putting yourself out there through dance, whether it's, people filming it, putting it on social media, or just the fact that you're dancing with somebody else, there's a lot of exposure there, and it can highlight insecurities. So we want to work on those for sure as an ongoing thing. Now, you might say, oh, I don't need to work on that, I'll just work on the other things, right? But I would just say this now, is it's very hard to improve, to get past a certain level of your dancing if you don't like the way you look, if you're super self-critical, if you're putting yourself down all the time. It's going to be super hard to, one, enjoy the dancing 100%, and two, to also improve, because you're almost blocking yourself from getting better. So whether you're doing it for yourself or you're doing it purely because you want to get better, make self-love a priority. Number six, we're talking about comparison. Yes, that's right. The thing that drops confidence a lot is comparing yourself to other people. When a student comes to me and says, oh, but I'm not as good as so-and-so, or, I was watching all these people on the dance floor and they're amazing, and I just can't, I can't, match up to that, so I can't do the social dancing. I always say to them a couple things. Number one, the more you dance, the better you get. That's just a standard. But also, secondly, is that everyone has their own journey and they have their own path. You don't know anything about someone's dance journey up until that point that you are seeing them on the dance floor. They might be doing about 50 more hours a week than you are in terms of dancing, and then you're comparing your journey to theirs. You're automatically putting yourself at a disadvantage by comparing yourself, because the playing ground is not even, okay? And it doesn't matter whether somebody's better or worse, or their musicality is really, really good and it's something that you're still working on. That doesn't matter, because all you need to think about is being better than yourself and competing with yourself. Because as soon as you start competing with other people, perhaps people that have been starting dancing since they were 3 years old, okay? They've been having training in, ballroom Latin since they were 3 years old. Or people who have been dancing in their home since they were born, okay? Because it's just part of the culture. You don't know where people have come from. You don't know what they've done to get to the point. You don't know where they started, whether they just had natural rhythm and they just started off in a good place. So by trying to compare yourself, you're just going to drive yourself a little bit crazy and put yourself off. So I would always recommend, you see people on the dance floor, admire them. Yes, see what they're doing. Look at how they got there. But also don't think, oh, but I'm not doing that. Rather think, wow, that's amazing. That's aspirational. Brilliant. And it stays there. But when it comes to yourself, you're like, cool, this is where I'm at. This is where I was. I appreciate the journey that I have had. I appreciate that based on this many hours that I've put in, I have come this far, and that's amazing. And now I want to be better than I was yesterday. So this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to practice. This is my goal for the month. I want to improve my hips, for example. I want to improve my footwork this month. I want to improve my timing this month. So pick one thing, pick two things, but focus on yourself. Don't worry about other people. In the same way that you can't compare your life experiences to someone else's life experiences, I want you to think about that same thing when it comes to your dance journey. They are not comparable whatsoever. Your focus should only be on you and making yourself better. And finally, the last tip is to bring good energy to your practice. Sometimes when we have a busy day, we're running around, we're doing all these things, we come into the dance school, dance room, the bar, wherever you're learning, with this kind of very overthinking brain, very overwhelmed brain. Everything, the problems, everything that is going on in your life is coming into your practice. And so, it's very hard to concentrate, to switch off, to have that, bring that good energy. Now, I'm not saying just switch it off and forget about it all, because that's, a good, it's a very good life skill to have. And I think people who are good at meditation can do that. But it's not so easy for everybody. So how I deal with it, especially when I've had a day, how I deal with it is I try and shift the mood just a little bit. If I can make it 5% better, then I'm already going into my practice with 5% feeling better. I could be getting myself in the mood with some music and some high energy. It could be, having something nice and nutritious and feeling good about the fact I've had something nice and nutritious. It could be affirmation. Sometimes I'll walk to my dance class and I'll be like, I'm in a good mood, I'm feeling good, I'm gonna have a good dance class, I'm gonna be a good teacher, I'm gonna explain things well, and I'll have these affirmations going on in my head so that I can then give a good dance class and bring the good energy that I want to bring. Sometimes things like just taking a shower, trying to wash that stress off a little bit can help. Watching a funny video with your favorite creators, just like this one, can also help. I would recommend is trying to do just these tiny little mood shifts to try and make your mood and your energy a little bit better. Because when you associate the feel-good hormones with dancing, one, you're more likely to want to go to more classes because you're feeling good, you're associating those good hormones. And two, you're more concentrating on what the teacher's saying, you're having a better time, you're interacting with people a little bit better. You can focus more on the dancing and just using this as a place of refuge, a place of relaxation. And what that ends up doing over time, again, it does improve your confidence because you go there feeling good, right? And quite often confidence and feeling good go hand in hand. There's so many days where you feel low, you don't feel good, and then your confidence matches that. You're kind of low in confidence as well. But if we can increase the mood a little bit, then maybe we can increase our confidence also. And then over time, because you've got all these good hormones associated with dancing, and dancing does bring up a lot of your good, happy hormones, over time, we're going to have, once again, more positive experiences, more confident experiences, and then ending up with this beautiful, positive feedback loop. That is the end of this video. It's not the end of the confidence topic, but it's the end of this video. If there's any tips that particularly resonated with you, or if you've got any of your own, pop them in the comments below and let me know what you'd like to focus on next to help drive whatever content that I'm creating to help you the best that I can help you. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe, like this video, drop a comment, because all of it really, really helps. Thank you so much. Bye.